1999 is the last time a number one seed overall going into the NCAA tournament has won the College World Series. It is as unpredictable, I think, as it gets. There are a lot of familiar names that end up in Omaha, but you got to earn your way there. And unfortunately, South Carolina and Clemson fans realized that this year, maybe more than ever, and that led to a change yesterday with Clemson firing Monte Lee. I know a buddy of yours, you talked about following your friends and the whole thing.
Yeah.
I met Monte, man, I can't even remember what year it was. Adam Westmoreland was at Brooklyn Casey, and I was being a camera guy behind the plate. He had a radar gun being an assistant with the Gamecocks, and he said, hey, man, you might want to pick up your camera here and shoot this Adam Westmoreland at bat. Westmoreland hits a home run. He looks at me. He's like, I told you. And now, obviously, went on to 7 years at Clemson. A pretty good record overall, Stuart. 242 and 136 and 102 and 86 in the ACC. The last couple of years, though, had fallen off. And now Graham Neff, the new AD there, who's 38 years old, made me feel really old this morning, moving on. And Monte Lee no longer the head coach at Clemson. What was your first reaction? I know this is not necessarily a massive shock to anybody, but it seems like across the board, I'm hearing the same sentiment, man. It's tough to see bad things happen to good people.
Well, that's the number one thing. Is he's such a good guy, and I was disappointed. You kind of knew it may be coming. You were hoping maybe they could figure out a way to give him one more chance, and but it's part of the business, and this baseball world's so small. You mentioned Adam Westmoreland. I coached him on the JV team at Brooklyn Casey. I went on. I don't know if everybody realizes how our paths have crossed, but when I left South Carolina in the fall of 2002 to go be an assistant for Coach Pulowski at the College of Charleston, Monte followed me from Spartanburg Methodist. So our paths have been so close throughout our whole career. And I think you could see it on Twitter yesterday from high school coaches, other college coaches. There are a lot of good guys in our business. He's one of the best guys. And that's why everybody's disappointed that it worked out the way it did. I don't think anyone holds any. It wasn't like Graham Neff did something yesterday that maybe shocked the college baseball world. It was just disappointing for a lot of us. We wanted to see Monte succeed. He had a lot of success in those first 3 years, hosting regionals, just never was able to get through them. And then COVID hits. He had a really good team the COVID season. And then these last 2 seasons not make a regional is kind of the end of that. So it'll be interesting as it kind of all shakes out to see who's the next guy, because in my lifetime, there's only been 3 Clemson head coaches. I grew up with Bill Wilhelm in this state, and then Coach Leggett took over as I started my high school, then college coaching career, and then Monte the last year. So, I mean, you're talking about like the South Carolina baseball, same way, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. There ain't many head coaches on that list. So, big decision for them to make.
And I'm glad you mentioned what the environment has been at Clemson and at South Carolina. To me, you have such you have such massive shoes to fill. We saw it with Chad Holbrook with the Ray Tanner situation, and you feel like Monte Lee was that guy now with Jack Leggett, even though it lasted for 7 years. But the last 2 years, the numbers on that one, 60 and 50 overall, and then 7 games under 500 in the ACC. Last 5 years, the 10th most draft picks out there. So it trying to kind of shows you all the talent that has gone through there, but the expectations are there, man. And I mentioned this to you maybe last time you were on about Gamecock fans and their expectations of the program. You said, no, absolutely. They should be up there. And Clemson fans, I think, are right there with them. So now the question becomes, the Clemson program, how strong do you feel like it is moving forward now after these 7 years under Monte Lee, and how attractive of a job is it out there in the college baseball world?
Well, I think we'll always be biased if we grow up in this state. And I've been very open. I've grown up a Gamecock fan my whole life, but I still see it as an elite job. And what I see it attracting is the upper echelon of the coaches. I mean, we'll talk about it as we get into the tournament later, but Texas A&M last year did not make the SEC tournament. Much less a regional. They go ahead and say, hey, we're going to put more into this. We're going to get a guy. And they go get Coach Schlossnagle from TCU. They're hosting this year. And as I was looking through my stuff, they're not only hosting, they're number 5 national seed.
And hosting TCU.
And TCU, which is how – and you think the NCAA guys don't know that in a room. I love it when they go, oh, that just worked out. But my point being, I think Clemson's that kind of job too. I think they'll probably end up hiring a very upper-end guy. And I know there was comments yesterday made on, they're going to have to pay more and do this and that. Well, probably will, but that's one of those jobs that's been known as a baseball school since Coach Wilhelm, Coach Leggett, and honestly with Monte. So I think they'll end up getting a really high-end guy to come in there, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them right back in the mix next year.
Interesting to hear that from you, because I feel like that's where fans come at it from typically, right? We get in college baseball is much different than college football in this part of the world. There are many fewer coaches' names out there that all fans know, right? We watch them in the College World Series, and outside of that, there are very few people that are really exposed to college baseball names. But you think it's going to be one of those names that most of us know?
I do. I certainly feel that whoever it is going to be playing this weekend. And if it's probably the way it will work out, they may be playing, the following weekend and in Omaha too. Those are the type coaches that I think about when you say Clemson's going to fire a guy with the character of Monte Lee who had success. Let's not act like the ship had gone under the water 4 weeks ago. He ended up with the 34th best RPI in the country. I mean, it still had 35 wins. So, I mean, this wasn't people jumping off the ship back in April, only won 26 games. This is a guy that was still running a great program, and they've decided we want to go a different direction. Well, as a Clemson fan, I certainly would hope you're telling me you want to go up, because I'm going to be honest, he's going to be hard to replace character, the way of recruiting, and what they've been doing. So I think it'll be one of those, as you say, elite type hires when they do it.
Well, we see it all the time. The older I get, the more I appreciate the fit. I think I've said that many times, right? Where you have a good job and a good, a good proven candidate or worker for that job. Sometimes they just don't mix. Why do you think it didn't work for Monte at Clemson?
Honestly, Tim, I don't know. I think it was some high-end recruits that they couldn't get on campus, which always catches you in the college game. We've gone back and talked how lucky we got. I mean, everybody knows who Jose Bautista is now. He was coming in set to be our third baseman for the 2002 season, and days before school starts, he signs with the Pirates. So we were just so lucky that Coach Tolman knew another pretty good third baseman that turned out to be Brian Bushel. But I can only imagine if we don't have a recruiter like Coach Tolman at that time to plug in what tends to be another big leaguer, how it would affected. So I think Monte and them had some really high-end recruits that they thought they would get that never got on campus, and that always hurts you. And then everybody. Seems like this year's been everybody telling everybody about injuries. Hey, there have been injuries in college baseball the whole time. Okay, now it's just social media so you can broadcast it more. Everybody's dealing with injuries. Coach Tolman at Middle Tennessee State, they lost their top 2 pitchers in a span of 3 days to COVID and a back issue going into the Southern Miss series. Couldn't get them back. So, I mean, injuries are all over the country, and Monte has been the least to talk about them, but they've had some too. But I think it's just when you got 11.7 scholarships, and you know how I hate those numbers, but those upper-end guys are almost on a 80%, 75%, and all of a sudden they don't come. Well, you're not finding another guy like that. That guy's already gone somewhere else, or he's already gone to draft. So that's my thing. Otherwise, I don't know, because I can tell you right now, if my son would have wanted to play for Monte Lee, I would have had no issue with it. That's what kind of program I felt he was running. That's what kind of baseball coach I thought he was. And that's why I'm excited to really see where he lands the next time.